Imagine a city filled with luxury cars, bright lights, and great music on every corner. Now, if I told you this was Cuba, would you believe me? In the 1950s, Havana was seen as one of the 9 wonders of the world. Today we're diving into the past of one of the most famous cities in the Americas. A place where Cuban sound rhythms mingled with luxury and a surprising modernity that is not as common to see today. Let's hop into our time machine and get started! Havana in the 1950s wasn't just a city. It was a driving cultural and economic hub, drawing in countless tourists, including all sorts of celebrities, who saw it as an iconic vacation destination. But I bet you have no idea how it all began. We have to go to the colonial era. Havana was founded under the name San Cristobal de la Habana, which can be broken into two parts. The first honors the patron saint of sailors, and the second comes from Abagüex, a Taino chief who ruled over the area where the city's first settlement was established. However, its beginning wasn't peaceful. Havana was one of the territories French pirates targeted in their first attempt to seize lands Spain had conquered. The Spanish crown wasn't passive though, and declared the town a gathering point for Spanish fleets, establishing military defenses at the base entrance and turning it into the most fortified city in the New World. This is how Havana began its path to one of Spain's strongholds in the Americas, reaching an economic boom in 1860. 3 years later, the city walls were demolished, allowing for expansion and the construction of majestic buildings and elegant residences. Who would have thought it was on its way to becoming the Spanish New York? Interesting, right? So, how did Havana become the most famous city in the region? To answer that, we have to fast forward to the end of the 19th century, where the changes needed to make it a unique place in the world began to unfold. During this time, Havana also witnessed the final stages of Spanish colonization in the Americas, marked by 2 Cuban independence wars. In 1898, the sinking of the American battleship Maine in Havana Harbor gave the United States a pretext to invade the island. Finally, on January 1, 1899, the last Spanish governor, Adolfo Jiménez Castellanos, surrendered the city to the American General John R. Brooke, marking the start of a new era in the Caribbean city. With this shift, Havana began to reflect U.S. influence, with numerous buildings, hotels, casinos, and nightclubs, like the famed Hotel Havana Hilton, now Hotel Trip Havana Libre, and the Hotel Nacional de Cuba. Havana also became a pioneer in technological and cultural innovations in Latin America. It was the first city worldwide to introduce direct dial telephones for operator-free calling, and the first in Latin America to have public street lighting. Havana also excelled in media. In 1958, it was the second city to have color television in a channel dedicated exclusively to it. And decades earlier, in 1922, it became the second city worldwide to have a radio station. Amazing, considering that today it's one of the countries with the most connectivity issues and limited internet access, isn't it? One of the most striking symbols of modernity in Havana was the parade of luxury cars. Downtown became a showcase of classic cars from brands like Chevrolet, Ford, and Cadillac, many of which were status symbols. In fact, Cuba's car culture in the 1950s was so strong that it was one of the world cities with the most car races and car-centered social events. It's even said that by the late 1950s, Havana had more cars and televisions per capita than any other Latin American capital. And here, forgive me for pausing again to underscore how ironic this fact is. How could things have changed so drastically in just 50 years? And that's not all. If you think that's impressive, just wait until you hear about the investments that made it happen. US companies dominated Cuba's economy, transforming Havana into a significant commercial and financial center. In the 1950s, U.S. investments in Cuba rose from $657 million in 1950 to over $1 billion in 1958. This capital was mainly funneled into the sugar industry and other strategic sectors, which fueled rapid economic growth. Post-World War II economic recovery spurred construction in Havana. From 1951 to 1955, nearly 7,000 single-family homes were built, reflecting a period of rapid urban expansion. This development not only improved the city's infrastructure, but also attracted new residents and businesses. Havana was on its way to becoming something huge. The city expanded eastward and southward, with the new neighborhoods like Marianao and Guanabacoa emerging as residential areas. This growth was driven by a demand of housing and internal migration, as people sought better career opportunities and higher earnings in the city. This decade also saw the modernization of essential infrastructure, like roads and public services, which made different parts of the city more accessible and improved urban life. But Havana's charm didn't just become from its technology and development. Its private nightlife drew in foreigners from all over the world, eager for an unforgettable experience under Cuba's tropical skies. And one of the icons of Havana's nightlife is still standing. So, if you're planning a visit to Cuba, pay attention. This place is no other than the Tropicana Cabaret. Founded in 1939 and dubbed the Paradise Under the Stars, widely regarded as the most spectacular in the world. Yes, you heard that right, in the world. During the Republican era, it was known for gambling, drinks, and women nearly naked, attracting politicians, mobsters, Hollywood stars, and American sailors. Nothing New York couldn't offer. The show drew inspiration from ballet, circus acts, carnival, and famous rhythms like bolero and cha-cha-cha, creating one-of-a-kind artistic experience that achieved worldwide fame. Its stage welcomed Cuban stars and international icons who continue to return to Havana, enthralling audiences eager to immerse in Cuban culture. What sets this show apart? It is Cuban folk touch, vibrant colors, diverse rhythms, elegant dancers, and high-quality performers. However, not all the topic spots fared as well. Take the Blanquita Theater, known today as the Karl Marx Theater, which can seat up to 5,500 people and once the largest indoor auditorium in the world. Another global milestone, and we've mentioned quite a few already. Sadly, today the theater has been infested with termites, known locally as comején, a pest that has damaged the venue over time. Returning to the 1950s, here's a fun fact. Havana had more movie theaters than New York or Paris. In 1958, it boasted 121 cinemas, surpassing the cities known as the cultural centers of modernity. By now, it's clear that Havana was the most advanced city globally, one anyone would dream of visiting. But what happened to turn that golden era into a distant memory? Despite its economic and cultural boom, there was a profound social inequality. While the upper class enjoyed luxury and prosperity, the working class faced tough conditions. Unemployment was high, especially among farmers, who couldn't understand how such a wealthy city couldn't offer them a dignified lifestyle. This social disparity sparked tensions that would eventually lead to the Cuban Revolution, which laid the groundwork for Havana's current political landscape. Even though Havana is no longer a city of global development, this Caribbean city remains one of the most renowned and visited for its rich history and culture reflected in its streets. Its historical, cultural, and architectural wealth continues to attract thousands of visitors from around the world. From its colonial architecture to the music that fills its corners, every step through the city offers a journey into the past and an immersion into Cuban tradition. Indeed, Havana remains a must-visit for those looking to experience the essence of Caribbean culture and a history that has impacted not only the island, but the entire world. But let's be honest, this video also sparks curiosity about what Havana and Cuba might look today if they had taken a different social and political path. Would it have become one of the world's most cosmopolitan capitals? We'll never know for sure. But at least, thanks to this video, we can picture an alternate Havana in our imagination. If you enjoyed this journey through Havana's history, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to discover more fascinating destinations like this one. Also, be sure to share the video and activate notifications so you don't miss more of these amazing stories. See you on the next adventure!